Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? It is very early. We're on early tonight. I thought we'd come hang out for a little bit because, well, we didn't have a show last night due to internet outage in my area. Apparently, due to water in the pipes or whatever outside. So they had to drain it after the storms on the weekend. It was causing connection issues. So all day I had like half an internet connection. I could enter some sites and I couldn't get to other ones, and it was a nightmare. So it got really late, and I was like, "Wow, I don't think we're going to be doing a show today." So it was a bit of a shame, but hey, a Sunday night off after a busy week, that's okay. We're back for Monday. Today's Monday, Tuesday for me, but Monday for you guys. So we have lots of updates, including more on the USA man who was charged in connection to it was like a police siege in Australia where very unfortunately a couple of police died in this siege along with the people who instigated it, but they were sort of coached or spiritually guided by a man in Arizona, and his name is Donald Day, and he is in jail, and he'll be going to trial in a few weeks' time. And they're sort of in this pre-trial process of like, what can they do at trial? What can they not do? And I'll tell you more about it in a minute. We also have really good updates, very good updates in the Canadian Skibisky, the Sabisky serial killer. He dumped bodies into dumpsters, and the bodies will end up taking to a tip or a rubbish, whatever you want to call it, rubbish dump. And they put aside a lot of money to search for these two women. They started late last year, and now we have some success, which I'm very happy about. They thought this could take like 4 or 5 years. They were like talking about like $60 million, maybe 120 million. It was a lot of money, and I was like, wow, it's a lot of money. You can talk, you can get why some people were like, oh, it's a ton of money, but on the other hand, to make the families whole again, you can understand why they really wanted to do it. So we'll talk more about that too. Actually, we might do that first. Hold on. Um, there was a couple of weird stories here. I'll show you what I was reading before this, and it says strangers had sex in our premiere in hotel room while we're out. Okay, I don't know why you'd write to the papers about that, but sure. And apparently, the couple here are like a 70-year-old older people, and they're like, "Oh, we would never do such a thing." I was like, "What? Then why did you write into the paper about it?" It's very strange. Um, yeah, there was that one, and there was this weird one. Check this out. Let me see if I can find it. There's some very strange stories in the paper today. There was actually another one. Remember we talked about the micro thing a couple of weeks ago? I saw another one the other day, and I was like, it must be the unofficial month for it. I saw a third story about someone who has a micro pineapple, and I was like, wow, that's like, why are they doing this? It was this, and I was like, what is wrong with TikTok? Like, what is wrong with TikTok? It was this. It said, people left shocked after realizing what the dangerous TikTok trend of vabbing is. I thought it was like where your lady parts vape instead of through the mouth, and I was like, wow, that's a hell of an act. That's a hell of a party trick. And then they're saying, oh no, that's not what it is. Apparently, the ladies they do something like this, and they use their own stuff as perfume. They dab it on themselves and use it as some sort of perfume. So the media has gone mad today. It really has. I don't know what's going on in the world, but well, hold on. Camera's got the cover on. There we go. Hey, good to see you. So there you go. There you go. Strange stories for everyone today in the world of the media. Hey, RX girl. Every now and then I like to throw in an early show for the people who feel left out that we go so late at night all the time. So every now and then I'll do an early show. So um, you just have to get one less day of a midnight show. Rachel said, "Who writes this stuff?" Apparently TikTok. Apparently people on TikTok. Carolina says, "Happy St. Patrick's Day." Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. You know, I saw something interesting about that. I had no idea they did this. Let me see if I can find it. Apparently, they put like all this stuff in the water in Chicago and they like dyed the water green and it's it's done through like the local plumbers association or something, and they have like a secret recipe that they do every year and it's only known by them. Here's a photo of them dyeing the water green. Apparently it starts off sort of orange and it sort of goes green when they put like an activator with it. And the guys are like pouring it in, and they got pipes coming off the back of the boat, like dumping dye in, and they're covered in like orange and green dye. It looks like a fun day for them. It looks like they get to live their childhood fantasy out of dyeing the river of Chicago bright green. So if you're in Chicago and you get to see that, I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that would be interesting. Natasha, hey, how are you? Good to see you. I'll say hello to everyone. Mama Mia, good to see you. My friend Moonlight View, great to have you. Who else is here? Carolina's here. Our other Carolina is here. You two should fight. Like fight to the death for the name. You should fight. I Hate Mornings is here. Marilyn Landis. Who else? Who else do we have? Marlene Clausen is here. My friend Betty C. Rachel Lindy. Nikki's here. Hey, Nikki. Mr. James Avery as well. Haven't seen Mr. Dan Yee for a while. I hope Mr. Dan Yee is doing well. Hope my friend Joe out there is doing good. Haven't seen Joe in a while either. Hope Joe is doing all right. And by the way, for everyone keeping track, I did track down Gambler. I can tell you that he's okay, and that's all I know. So everyone can stop worrying for now. That's all I know though, but maybe he just wants a break from everything, which that is okay. You like each other now? Are you sure? You sure you don't want to like get some jello or something and wrestle for the name? I don't know. I don't know. We could think of something. Okay. So there you go. If you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day anywhere in the world, I actually saw a guide to Gaelic the other day, and I was like, Gaelic? I was like, I don't think I could pronounce any of those names. It looked like someone wrote an article just for me, and they're like, this article is the only article in the world that Ping could never read. And that's what it seemed like. I was reading through it, and they're like telling you how to pronounce all these names, and I was like, I read names for a living. I was like, I don't think I could do this. The names in Ireland, especially the Gaelic names, are they're like, oh, this is like a CH when it's an R, and when you have a thing over the letter, it means it's like a kush, what like sound, and it's like, how is this is not language? What is this? I'm like, I can't do that. You're at the bar. At the bar, okay. Hey, Marjorie, good to see you, my friend. Good to have you. So yeah, I'm not going to be attempting any Gaelic names today. I don't think that's a wise idea. I don't. Yeah, it's hard. I was trying to read them, and I'm like, how do you? Why? Like, if you have an I that has like a dot on it, it has like a weird like "een" noise, and I was like, who made up these rules? Like, I can't ever go to Ireland. I don't think I could ever go there. I'd ask someone how to get down the street, and they'd be like, "Are you trying to fight me?" They'd be like, "Why are you swearing about my mother?" I'm like, "I'm not, I'm just pronouncing words." And they're like, "No, no, that was a taunt against my mother." And I'd be like, "I don't know. I don't know how to say these words." Yeah, it is very complex. You know, people say English is a very difficult language. No, Gaelic is. Gaelic. Gaelic is very, very hard. Don't try Polish? No, I don't think I will. I'll try Polish women. They're always good. Polish language, not so good. Not so good. All right, let's go to Canada. Because why not? Because Canada is a country. All right, where is my Canadian? Where's my Canadian story? If I can ever find it, which is seems to be an occurring problem on this channel. By the way, some great news out of the land of TV. If you didn't see this, Apple delivers surprise announcement. Season 4 of Ted Lasso is in the works and in production. So if you're a big Ted Lasso fan, which I am, season 4, we're going to get a new season of the show. So yeah, I'm very, very happy about that. I thought the ending to season 3, while good, left a lot to be desired. So I am ecstatic that we're getting another go. All right, where is our Canadian story? Apparently, we're not allowed to show it to you. Apparently, it's been banned by the National Media Association or something. Aha, here it is. Hold on, guys. All right, here we go. Let's go to Canada. Canada sounds like somewhere where you like. Sounds like the Canadian version of Narnia. Like you go through the wardrobe with the lion and you fight the evil witch. It says here a second set of remains have been located at the Manitoba landfill and now confirmed to be Mercedes Mirren. So I am ecstatic that they've done this finally. They found other set of remains. I think they are either in the process of being confirmed or have been confirmed now to be Morgan Harris. So if you don't remember this, this is the Prairie Green landfill just north of Winnipeg in Canada. And this all relates back to Jeremy Skibicki. And he is just a scumbag who preyed on women while they were in very down portions of their lives. Some of them were homeless, some of them were living in a women's shelter, and he would often prey upon these very vulnerable women and use them and then put them in a dumpster. Put them in a dumpster and they got taken to landfill, where at least two of them now have been for at least a couple of years. But it was very lucky. The reason this particular search was so successful is they stopped any more rubbish being put on that location for at least I think it was like 18 months. So they didn't allow more rubbish to be put over the top or things to be moved around. They just went, "Hey, we think there's human remains here. We think eventually we'll be able to search this location and get the funding for it. Please just leave it alone." And they did. And that I think that has led to why they were able to find both of them successfully. Because once you get into a landfill situation, if you don't have the details that they had, so that they knew the dumpster where the remains were put, they knew the day of the pickup, and they knew where the trucks went and to what landfill. Through that information, they were able to talk to the landfill, and the landfill tracked down that it was in a very specific quadrant in the landfill. So I can't remember, it's called like G12 or G20 or something. And they were able to be like, okay, that's where we think they are. We're going to pause it. And it took a while to get the funding. Now, a lot of people were against it because the costs and time associated with it were like some of the estimates were astronomical. I think they said it was going to begin possibly at 60 million Canadian dollars, and the far end of it could have been something like 120 million Canadian dollars. And there was some people that were like, "Hey, that's a lot of money. Why are we doing this?" Then there was like some other people that were like, "No, no, we've treated our indigenous people like crap for a long time. This would be a good way to show them that, even in bad times, we support them and we want them to have their loved ones returned to them. It's worth the money for that reason to make their families whole again." And it did go through. They got the funding. It was committed to be done late last year. And now, just a few months later, they started in October last year. They stopped for a period after I think it got too cold, and then they had a break, and then they came back and started again. And now they've been able to find both women that were put into the landfill, which I don't think you can ask for a better resolution to that. And they did it very quickly. Now, from my reading, they actually brought in university students who were working in this sort of domain, and they all volunteered to do it. A lot of them volunteered to be a part of the project. They said the conditions were so harsh, so awful. You have to wear like a Tyvek suit. You have to wear like gloves, and you have to tape your wrists, and you have to be very careful of sharp objects and stuff like that. You're searching through grime and gunk all day, but these people were so convinced that they could do it that they asked to go back earlier. So when they suspended the search for a period of time, these people that did the search in the first place, they were like, "No, no, hey, we want to go back. Like, hey, let us go back and finish the job. We think we can do it." And they were very adamant that they could get this done and they could do it quickly, and they were able to do it. So I think that just shows you these great people who you know went into a landfill to search for these two women. And there's one of them is Mercedes Miron here, or Myron. And yeah, great news. It's three or four of the mysteries of Jeremy Skibicki now have been solved. We have one more to go, and that is the Buffalo Woman. Now, if you ask me to pronounce her indigenous name, I'm not going to be able to do it. Um, but I can put it in the chat. Again, a name that Ping can't pronounce, but I can show it to you. That's her given name that the indigenous people, First Nation people, gave to her because she didn't have a name. So they called her the Buffalo Woman, and it's supposed to be very prideful. Uh, for tonight, it will be, at least for tonight. Marjorie said, "It's a serious commitment to sort through a landfill. I remember the testimony of Quinton Simon's searchers. So great that they found the two women." Actually, Canada's had good success in not just this one, where two bodies were located. They had one last year of a murder victim who was put into a different landfill, and they were able to locate her as well. So Canada's actually got they've got really good at doing this, and they've had some good results where they can learn and keep honing this sort of technique in case they have to use it in the future again. It's great news. I'm so glad that we don't have to talk about the landfill anymore at this location, the Prairie Green landfill. They said here, they're looking for more. Okay, so maybe they're still looking for a bit more of them. They say Mercedes, Miron, and Morgan Harris are coming home, according to the Premier, told reporters on Monday afternoon. "This is what we set out to do. I don't know if many of us knew the odds of success, but it turns out bringing them home was within our grasp." That is great news. The search was expected to continue throughout 2025. That's right. they had actually set aside, I think it was like 18 months to do this particular search, and it was it was a lot of work. And can you imagine if they got to summertime in this region in Canada? Can you imagine searching in a landfill in the middle of summer? I think they did well to do it while it was still quite cold, and that may have helped them, make working in that environment just a tiny bit easier. They're saying they went through a whole heck of a lot to get to this point, but at the end of the day, we did the right thing. They say workers are still at the Prairie Green to find additional remains of Harris and Mirren. He said the search could continue for a few more weeks before the province reassesses next steps alongside the women's families. So I think they've found big bits of them, and I don't want to say that you know without compassion. I just mean when you're doing this type of search, things and so they might be still looking for a little bit more of both of them. They said here, I can tell you that today we continue to find remains, and in the coming weeks, perhaps that will no longer be the case. They said they would not say whether the search would continue in hopes of finding another victim of Skibiki, a still unidentified woman who was given the name Buffalo Woman by the community leaders. So Jeremy was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder in the killings of 4 women. That's Mirren, Harris, Rebecca, and the unknown woman, Buffalo Woman. They are still waiting to find her. They believe she might be at the same landfill, but they don't quite know where she might be. But being that his offending took place in a very limited period of time, they think it might be in a similar location because the bin and where he dumped the women all came from the same truck. So it's possible there may be a fourth or a third person in the landfill and the fourth victim, which would be really good. They're saying here, investigators believe Contoise was the last woman Skibiki killed on May 14 or 15 in 2022. That's Rebecca. Her partial remains were found in a garbage bin in Winnipeg in May of that year, with more later found at a city-run Brady Road landfill in June 2022. So they already found one of these victims, at least part of her, in a different landfill a couple of years ago. And there's a photo of Donna Barlett with a poster of her granddaughter, which was Mercedes Ryan, which she has now been located. So wait, there we go. So you can see her holding up a photo of her. She can now bring her home, which is really good. Let's see. Yeah, so back in 2022, they had a feeling that the women were in that landfill and they had good evidence that they were there. But police said it was unfeasible to search that landfill due to the scale of how big that search would be, the cost involved, and just the amount of people, safety, biohazard, that type of thing. They were just like, this is just too big of a hill to climb. But they're saying it became a political issue in Manitoba's 2023 provincial election, and then they eventually began that search last year after running on that promise that they would do it. So they did. They kept their promise and they did it. So that is good. I think that's great. I think it's great that that some sort of political election, even though I think it was the side that was making a lot of noise about it, they didn't end up winning. It ended up being the incumbent, if I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was the opposition. They wanted to get into power, and they basically were making a big song and dance saying they would fund it. And I think it doesn't matter because they eventually both agreed to do the same thing, which often happens when you have these type of political things, but it's good for the victims and the families because they got the money and the permission to search it, and they were successful in finding both the women. So that is great news. Let me see. Yeah, 8 hours to fight to bring. Yes, let me show you here the timeline if this will play for me. Let's see if it does. It may. Here it goes.
The 24-year-old's remains were found in North Kildonan, which led investigators to the Brady landfill. Tuesday, human remains were discovered.
Winnipeg police have charged Jeremy Skabicki with first-degree murder for allegedly killing 3 more Indigenous women from March to May.
Police say Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron were murdered last spring. Their remains ended up in this landfill.
So what we're left with is the potential task of searching for human remains across a 4-acre site that was 40 feet in depth, heavily compacted with 9,000 tons of wet, heavy construction clay, and distributed throughout the site was 250 tons of asbestos. When we're looking for human remains, or when it comes up that there might be human remains at a landfill, we approach that with the mindset that we're going to be searching. That's our default. That's our default mindset. It was with respect to Brady, and it was with respect to Prairie Green. But in the interest of the safety of our members doing the search, and whether or not we have any potential to be successful in that search, we have to look at the specific site and the issues it presents. And that's what we did here. And when we presented it, we made the very difficult decision as a service that this wasn't operationally feasible.
So you look at the conditions that they search that landfill in. There's snow on the ground. It's probably cold as balls out there. And I'm pretty sure if I remember the mapping correctly, if you see in the bottom right corner, there's like a dark colored triangle. I think that's where the quadrant that they wanted to search. I think it was called like I said before, G20 and G19. There was two different slots of rubbish. Not that the women are rubbish, just garbage that they had dumped there. There was two different quadrants, so they that's how they sort of do landfills. So every time a truck comes in and they have like a week of rubbish, they sort of push it into an already open slice of land or where they've dug down, and they sort of compact it and push it into like a cube, and it has a slant on it. And then the next week they do the same thing. So it's almost like um, I can't remember the shape. Ping needs still any shapes, like I don't know, like like a rectangle, like a slanted rectangle, whatever that shape's called. And it's on an angle. So when they had to do this, they had to basically scrape away very slowly and get down to that layer where they thought the women were located. It's a hard job, and it's very kind of the people, especially the university students who actually put forward their names to, hey, I'll do this. I want to come be a part of it. And they apparently they liked the fact that they could help a family get their loved one and bring them home, and that's what they really liked about it. That is true. They are. They've had a long history, like Australia. Isosceles, like an isosceles triangle? No, I think like a like a rhomb. I don't know. I'll look it up later. I'll look it up later. I think if we can find the maps again, I might be able to show you the how this worked. Let me see if I can find it. What is it called? The Prairie Green. Let me see if I can find the study. Yes, final report of feasibility. Here it is. Download, and then we open it up. All right. So this is a pretty old report now. I think it's a number of years old. But sorry about the whiteness. I'm sorry about redacted. Super redacted. Look, black lines of redactions. Redacted. But that's okay. We don't need that bit. We know about these two women. Okay, yeah. So this is some of the health and safety. They're saying here health and safety are real concerns during landfill searches. Methane and hydrogen sulfide are produced during waste decomposition. Methane is a flammable gas and asphyxiant, whereas hydrogen sulfide is flammable and highly toxic. Hazmat teams are recommended to be on site at all times to monitor air quality, act as safety officers, and perform decontamination of personnel who are in the cell. That's right, they call them cells, each bit that they, number. So it's an excavation pit that they're working in. They say working closely with excavated material. Searchers working within the excavation pit are recommended to wear basic level Tyvek covering with half or full face respirator. When excavation reaches deep hole designation, level B suit with self-contained breathing apparatus should be worn. Kevlar underboots? That's not a real thing. Kevlar undergloves? I don't know what that means. I'm guessing it means like some sort of Kevlar covering for your hands so you can't get pricked or cut. So Kevlar undergloves and heavy rubber hazmat gloves. So Kevlar and then rubber over the top. Recommended in addition to fire or hazmat boots. Seams should be taped to protect against contamination. Fire rescue or similar agency is recommended to provide standby ambulance, paramedics, and emergency medical technicians. Baseline vital signs for each person working in the excavation pit should be taken since protective equipment should be worn and may impact baseline vitals. So it's very serious. Like you're talking like a very hazardous environment. That's the timeline. We don't want that. No, we don't want that either. No, we don't want to talk about that. No, no, no. I want to find the landfill diagram. Aha, here. So cell 15 and 13, not 20 and 19, my bad. So it's down in that triangle that you saw in the video. It's right down here, 15 and 13 border onto each other with a little bit into 11. I don't know if they searched 11 or only 15 and 13, but you could see them digging in this area on the video. So this is how they construct it. So this is the typical cell development used at PGL, which is Prairie Green Landfill. And they say a daily deposit of waste in that sort of maybe it is like an isosceles triangle. There you go. So and they sort of keep doing that on these angles until you get a full row, and then they cover it and then continue to the next bit. So having to dig down and get into these little cell quadrants is not an easy type of you know task. It's quite difficult. So these people that did the work, they really are heroes. And you can see here, this is the 3D modeling that they had. It's right in this region here. So they didn't know how far down or how wide, but they just knew somewhere in this green area. If you think of it like a 3D and how deep that goes, somewhere in here. So they just had to start from the top and work their way down until they found the two women. So they did a great job to do that in 4 months and have a giant break in between. That is heroic work. Heroic work. It really is. I mean, I don't think many of us are like, yes, I would like to go work in a landfill for 4 months. Please take me to go search in a yuck landfill with the entire of Manitoba area's waste. Everything ranging from asbestos, medical waste, human remains, apparently they were even worried about in this particular landfill, they take like animal remains, like like if you get animals that are killed on the side of the road or found in public, they put them in this landfill. So they were worried about finding animal remains and bio waste and medical contamination. They had a very big job ahead of them searching for these two women. That's why it was going to cost a lot of money, because there was a lot of precautions that they had to take. It really is a success. It really is. That search was, it just seemed like almost impossible. Like you heard the police in the original assessment, they were just like impossible. It's infeasible that we could do it. They were just like no way, which is amazing that they did it so quick. Like when I saw the article today, someone sent it to me. I was like, wait, hold on. Wait, they only started in October and they had a big break. I was expecting this to be like January 2027 or something, like by the time we would hear anything, because it was going to be a huge search and it was like years of work. So the fact that they've already found remains of Harris and Mirren is really amazing. So they're saying the original pledge was 20 million Canadian dollars, and then the funds were matched by the federal government, so $40 million Canadian. But the full search, if they had to search for 3 years, which was the full timeline to search all of it, was going to cost 184 million Canadian dollars. 184 million. Almost $200 million to do a 3-year search of the Prairie Green landfill. So, really, but they got it done quick. Hopefully, I don't think it'll even come close to the 40 million. I think because they did it in such a quick time. Hang on, we could probably do some quick math. If we did 184, did 184 million. 184 million divided by 36. So that's 5 more. They got pretty close to half of the budget. So they got to do 4 months of searching. It cost 20.4 .44 recurring million dollars. So just shy of $21 million. So they did about half of their original budget if they stayed to the prescribed budget. They did about half of the original 40 million that they were given to do the search. So that is pretty good. Marjorie said, "No way, it seems so dangerous. Bless those people willing to do it. Listen to the testimony from the Quinton Simon case, and they even had the landfill section isolated practically from the beginning." Yeah, same with this one. They knew the quadrant or the cell that these women were located in, because they knew what truck had picked up the dumpster. So they knew where it went. But it was just like funding and time, and that they didn't put any more on top, I don't think. They were told not to modify it. So I don't think they did, but it was just a lot of work. Yeah, let me get you off this really white page. Yeah, by the way, there's a 3D image of the not a 3D, real life image of the landfill site. All right, let me see if I can find you a better update from a different news source for you, because I'd like you to hear about the two women. Yeah, Morgan Harris and Mercedes Mirren, or Myron. APT, I don't think we can use that one. I'm not sure who APTN News is. Who is that? I don't know. Some Canadian news site. I'm not sure who that is. Okay, I don't know who that is. I just don't want to take a risk using a provider I don't know. Yeah, Mercedes Harris. Because apparently their families spoke out today, and I'd like to play a little bit of it for you. Let me see if I can find that. Let's go to CBC. They had one from a couple of weeks ago where the families spoke. Here you go.
More than 2 years after calls first began to search Prairie Green landfill, crews looking for murder victims Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron located possible human remains. Family members of the two women say this discovery Wednesday morning, just a couple months into the search, came earlier than they expected.
All I could think about is I want my mom. No one should go through any type of heartbreak without their mom.
Harris's daughter Elle, cousin Melissa Robinson, and Myron's sister Jordan say there was no way to prepare. The province announced remains were found and says both the RCMP and Office of the Chief Medical Examiner are involved. The Mounties are on site and work to identify the remains is underway.
We knew those women were in there, and this is the day that we've been waiting for.
When family members found out, they went to the landfill to grieve and reflect on their fight for a search.
When the Winnipeg police told us no, when the government, Heather Stephenson, told us no, that couldn't be done and that it wouldn't be done. To hell with all you guys, because it got done.
A serial killer was convicted this past July of 4 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Harris, Myron, Rebecca Contois, and an unidentified woman given the name Mushkade Bishake Ikwe Ibon. Harris and Myron were killed in May 2022, left in a dumpster, picked up by a garbage truck, and taken to the landfill. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says identifying the remains found could take at least a couple of weeks.
Again, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. We have to wait for this identification process to play out.
The work at the landfill will continue after it was paused to let families grieve. Teams of searchers and forensic anthropologists have been working in a covered facility, combing through debris excavated from the site. They've been looking for clues, such as dates on milk cartons and flyers.
We have family members that are doing this search every single day. And it's tough work.
Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson credited her predecessor, the late Kathy Merrick, who fought hard for this search, and the families. She says this latest development is a testament to their strength. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So there you go from CBC News in Canada. Yeah, the family's very pissed off. They felt slighted by the police and the government not willing to fund the search in the first place and making them wait so long to have their loved ones returned to them. They were like, this could have been done, a month after they knew they had gone missing, because they knew where they were. And the families are mad that they let them sit and rot in a landfill when they could have been brought home. And you see, well, it only took about 4 months and they were able to figure it out. Maybe if they'd done it a few years ago when they first went missing, maybe it would have been even quicker, because the passage of time changes things. And they're quite angry about that. And it is very understandable. I think if any of your loved ones were in a landfill for 3 years, I think you would all be very pissed off that the government wouldn't fund it and just be like, "Oh no, it's all right. You just leave them there. Well, we can't we can't afford it. We don't have enough teams to do it. We don't have enough, funding or whatever." I feel like if this was and I hate to say it like this, but I feel like if this was some white family from like some upper class, neighborhood in, Ontario, they would have been like, yes, we have all the funding. We have 250 people lined up willing to search on this Saturday. We have all the peoples. We have all the money. People are willing to do this for free. People are willing to do this for free for the sweet Johnson family. The Johnson family, they mean the world to this city. We're going to make sure we get them out of there. But because these people are, First Nation Native people in Canada, they're just sort of forgotten about. And it took years for anything to really happen and for any funding to be given. So, and I get it, the cost of the funding was astronomical. You're talking about $200 million if the worst case scenario happened. Lucky that didn't, but you can't go into it thinking you're going to get the best case scenario, which is what we ended up getting, being that it cost only just over 20 million Canadian dollars. It could have been the worst case scenario where they had to search for 3 years, and you're talking like just shy of $200 million. So I get it's a lot of money, but I promise you, if it was like the Johnson family from Ontario, they would have been like, oh my God, every police agency in the city has lined up to volunteer to search until they bring them out of the landfill. I can see it. I can see it already. Like, it just feels um, like they just didn't matter as much compared to some other people. And I think by doing the search, it repairs it a little bit because they were willing to put up the money for it. But I just got to be less of a divide between people, right? We're all people. We're all people. I don't give a stuff if you're an octopus, a white person, or you come from Nigeria. I don't care. I just think we're just all the same, and that's the way you should be treated. Robbie says, back from Perth. It's raining again here. I hope it's not raining in Queensland. Khaliza said, if this was the USA, I would be surprised if they ever searched the dump site since they weren't considered important. And they were sex workers. So they were just like the least of anyone's, like priority list. What do they call them? No human involved or whatever. And NHI, no human involved. They call sex workers. Yeah. Cops often have a code name for sex workers saying that they're not human, which I just absolutely hate. I think sex workers provide a service to people, and in a lot of places in the world, it is legal, and it's one of the world's oldest professions. I just don't get why people are so funny about it. I really don't. Everyone does that. Who cares if some people charge for it? Some people can't get it, the normal way, or can't meet people, or may have a disability and don't feel confident meeting someone. These type of people provide that service and they get paid for it. Doesn't mean you should treat them differently. And Ping is not a fan of people who look down on sex workers. I think it says a lot more about you than it does about them. Mamma Mia says, yeah, hi, my friend. Oh, yeah, hey, Blessings Tarot. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Rachel said, everyone deserves justice and being brought home. That's right. I don't care if you worked for IBM or you worked on a street corner selling tricks. Should be the same. And it's ridiculous that it's not. And we've seen the same thing in the Long Island serial killer case. Originally, no one gave a crap. Those girls were out there for years in that sand. Years, like 5 years, 8 years, 12 years, 15. Like just no one cared. Oh, a sex worker went missing in New York. Oh, who cares? Same thing. It's got to change this mindset of people. They had families. They had people who loved them, just like you do. They just had a different lifestyle and a different job. I think we're past the point of looking down on people for that type of thing. I think, it's 2025. I think we've made many advancements for a lot of people, and we just got to stop with the whole uh, trying to divide people into categories and just you know don't things work better when we just all get along and we just try and be like friends with everyone? I think so. I think the world works better that way, and I think combined, working together and less barriers to people is much better. We get better results, better communities, better workplaces. Less judgment equals more, positivity. Ping is all about that sometimes. All right. So that is a good development. I'm very, very happy. That is a case I have followed for a really long time. It feels like years, but it's not that long. Since 2022. 2022. It feels way longer because I think just the drama that's gone along with this particular case. But if you ever want to read that technical report, it's worth the read. If you're into true crime and you want to know how landfill searches are done, I recommend going to the what is this place called? They're called the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. So if you go to their website, I'll put the link in the chat. You can read the entire technical report on the Prairie Green landfill search. And I think if you've got any interest in how landfill searches can be done, or what they cost, or the hazards, or things like that, this is a good paper. It was well done, well written, and it has a lot of different sources for their information, including other studies done in America and abroad. So it is a pretty good paper, actually. So good read if you're into true crime. Okay, let's head to Arizona. Arizona. Why are we heading to Arizona, Ping? Well, we're going to talk about Wieambilla. So if you guys remember Wieambilla, that was um, a man and his wife. It's a bit weird. A man and his wife and his brother. Although the wife used to be with the brother, but eventually married the other brother. Okay, stay with me. Um, they ended up being very like anti-authority, anti-police, and it was all religious based. They thought that they were coming for their rights and coming to take away their land and things. They'd gone completely cuckoo with this type of I don't know what you call it, like religious conspiracy type stuff. They just went bonkers. Anyway, on this channel before, we have shown you some of that siege that happened at the house, and we've shown you some of the footage of the police trying to get away from the property and back into the vehicle where they were shot at. So originally they had gone there for a wellness check. They'd gone to this property in Queensland, Australia, for a wellness check. And when they approached the property, they were fired on by these three individuals. And what happened over the preceding few hours is some of the most horrific accounts I've ever heard of between police and, people like suspects or a siege. It's brutal, including at one point, a officer got away from the firing line and headed out into deeper bushland. These three people set fire to the bushland to smoke her out, and we're trying to basically get her to get out of the bushland with fire. And somehow I think, if I remember correctly, she made it out, but only just until reinforcements arrived. And one officer who died was able to raise the alarm, but unfortunately, um, he died, and then his buddy got out of the property and got into a vehicle and was able to get out of there. And he again raised the alarm and got reinforcements. Just one, it really is horrific. But there was a man in Arizona, and he was sort of like their spiritual leader, or yeah, like I don't want to say a cult leader because I don't think it was quite that, but they would sort of hang out online and they would, talk about the authorities and, talk about the demons that were coming to take them. And yeah, it's sort of like a cult. It was a bit weird. Anyway, he was arrested in Arizona late last year in connection with that siege in Australia for the part he played in it. Now he's about to go to trial, and there's been some interesting updates about it here in Australia in the media. Let me just grab Donald's thing about it. Hold on, Donald Day. Yeah, let me take you. No, not Donald Trump. The F. Not Donald Trump. I don't want to talk about him. Not right now, anyway. Here, let me take you to in January of this year, then I'll tell you what happened today.
Well, there's a couple of new charges. One relates to allegations that he was in possession illegally of a string of firearms, including semi-automatic rifles. And the reason that prosecutors allege this was illegal was that he had earlier been charged with a felony, with a crime punished by more than a year in jail. So therefore, he wasn't allowed to have all these firearms. He was also alleged to be in possession of unregistered firearms. Furthermore, Donald Day Jr. is charged over threats that prosecutors say he made at the time of his arrest late last year. They say that when the FBI officers picked him up there in rural Arizona, that he made explicit threats to kill them if they harmed his wife, who was not with him at the time, that he would do them in the language in this indictment. So 2 further charges, that's on top of the charges that we heard about last year. One of them involves an online post made in the days after that attack in rural Queensland, in which 2 police officers and a neighbour of the attackers were killed. And we expect perhaps that there could even be further charges laid in this case.
And Barb, what's next for the court case, which is coming up?
Well, currently we still expect Donald Day Jr., who's 58, to go on trial early next month. There has been some legal to and fro in the past couple of weeks with his lawyers trying to get the initial charges against him dropped, and then prosecutors have then responded, arguing that he was a man who was guilty of inciting violence and encouraging the trains who took part in those attacks in Queensland.
So not only that, the defense, so the defendant Donald Day Jr., his team want to rule out any basically any testimony from Australian police. They said that their testimony is far too emotional for the trial and would basically guide the jury in a it would be unfair to the defendant because of how powerful their their statements would be in court and how highly emotionally charged it would be, since they are so close to the victims, which were the police officers and the neighbors. They're saying that they don't want those police officers from Australia to testify at all during this particular court hearing. And I think that if it's related to, the crime that he did, how can you rule out the officers who responded and were part of the investigation into what happened in Australia? I think that is bizarre, like really bizarre. Let me show you what happened today in the media down here. So, from the Courier Mail, they say new twist in trial of man linked to Wieambilla massacre. Lawyers for a US man arrested in connection with the massacre have made a bid to stop Queensland police officers testifying in his trial, which I think is Ridiculous. They say Australian police officers could be barred from giving evidence at the trial of an American man arrested in connection with the massacre after his lawyers argued their emotionally charged testimony could unfairly prejudice the case. They say Arizona man Donald Day, 60, is due to face a 7-day trial next month on charges including firearm violations and making interstate threats. It's alleged Day had been communicating with Queensland conspiracy theorists Gareth Nathaniel and Stacey Train, who murdered 2 police officers and a civilian and attempted to kill others at their property west of Brisbane in 2022. There's a photo of Stacey, Nathaniel, and Gareth, so you can see the 3 of them. They say that the Trains later died in a shootout with police who came to rescue their colleagues, including a female officer who was hunted by the killers during the terrifying ordeal. After killing constables Rachel McCrow and Matthew Arnold and neighbor Alan Dare, the Trains posted a video online saying, "They came to kill us and we killed them. If you don't defend yourself against these devils and demons, you're a coward." Police allege that Day had previously communicated with the Trains online, posted a video in response saying, "The devils come for us, they effing die, it's just that simple. We are free people, we are owned by no one." You freaking crackhead. What are you talking about? There he is. With I don't know whether to tie him up to a post, like he's some sort of donkey, or just get rid of the photo because it's spooky. I don't know what. Either one. They say the United States government, in its case against Day, will allege that statements constituted a threat against any law enforcement official who attended his residence. 8 Queensland police officers had provided statements to U.S. prosecutors and were prepared to give evidence during the trial next month. But lawyers for Day have now urged the court to restrict the evidence put before the jury about the Trains and their deadly attack, arguing the events took place half a world away. The world is connected now. So, we have people that plan terrorist attacks in, I don't want to say a country because there's a lot of countries that, these type of attacks come from. But, we all know that they're often planned in other countries and then done by people in, Western countries. So are you saying that you can never talk about that at their trial because, oh, well, it came from overseas? We don't live in the 1950s anymore. It's 2025. The world is connected every day across the world. Like right now, I'm talking to people in America. Like I'm doing that. And if I told you all to go out and set fire to your local Arby's or something, like I would expect to be held accountable for those statements, even in the USA, because I'm directing people who are citizens in that country to do something which is against the law. So the fact that he's trying to use the distance of Australia as a bargaining chip in the to get the testimony thrown out is ridiculous. It's low-hanging fruit, and it shows me that he doesn't have much of a defense at all. It shows me that he's grabbing at straws to try and find something. They're saying here, without strict limits to the testimony, Mr. Day will not receive a fair trial. Well, you can't just say that. You can't just be like, oh, I don't like the evidence. Makes me look very guilty. I don't really want that to be in my trial. That's not the way these things work. They say the Trains are responsible for the deaths of 3 people. Mr. Day is not. But Mr. Day's communication with them may have spurred them on to do something that they wouldn't have done otherwise, and that the Australian police's testimony about what happened that day and then how his communications with the Trains, it's very important to paint that picture. You can't just exclude that and pretend like that never happened. You can't magic that away. They say Day has requested a maximum of 1 officer to be allowed to be called to give evidence about Wieambilla, and that their evidence be limited to a set of facts agreed to by the parties. Day can go and get effed. They say his lawyers say if that restriction is not agreed to, they will be required to present their own evidence about the trains, including calling witnesses from Australia to give evidence about their beliefs and mental health. Yeah, I'd love to see you do that. I'd love to see you do that. In short, Mr. Day will be forced to undertake a defense of the trains to defend his own case. Mr. Day's trial should be about his actions, not the actions of the people he never met who lived 8,000 miles away. I don't think you can segregate between the two different things. I think it's it's a very slippery slope once you go there. And by trying to invoke that kind of defense by excluding evidence, I think you're basically picking your own evidence at trial. That's what you're trying to do. You can't just be like, "Oh, it doesn't suit me. I think they might find me guilty if they hear this. I don't want them to do that. I'd really like to be found not guilty." No, no, like you gotta air the truth in court. They're saying here Day's lawyers conceded that some evidence about the Wieambilla attack was necessary to help prosecutors make their case and explain how he came to the attention of the FBI, including details of the train's final video before their last stand with police, which they ended with the words, "See you at home, Don. Love you." Yeah, I don't think three people just make a video in the middle of a police siege and say, "Love you," if you weren't heavily involved in their life and shaping their actions. You know, you can't run away from your own actions now, Donald Day. It's not okay, and you have to live with what you were a part of, and you were a part of these people taking your ideas and conversations very seriously. They took them to heart, and they thought, I'm guessing they thought they were a part of something, some sort of stand against authority. And when the time came, they acted on it because that's all you guys ever talked about was defending these devils and the authorities. And if they come for you, you should shoot them. And well, they did it. Now they've done it. Now you're in court in America, in Arizona. You can't walk away from that. Maybe you should have thought twice about what you said and what you were perpetrating online in the first place. Um, they say, however, testimony by multiple Australian law enforcement agents, which the government has informed the defence that it intends to present, about an incident Mr. Day was not involved in, did not have advance notice of, and is not accused of inciting, assisting, or conspiring to commit, will simply distract, inflame, and prejudice the jury and risk turning the trial into a referendum on the trains instead of a trial about whether Mr. Day's YouTube video on December 16, 2022 constitutes an interstate threat. They say Mr. Day did not know the trains. Are you sure about that? I don't think people say love you at the end of a video in the middle of like their dying moments because they're just like, remember that guy online? He's really nice. Let's make a video and send it to him and tell him how much we love him and how we're going to see him at home. They say Mr. Day did not know the trains. He'd never met them in person. He had, however, interacted with them online, exchanging videos and comments about their lives and other topics. Lawyers have asked their application to exclude the testimony to be heard urgently. A date has yet to be set to fight that out in court. But there you go. There's the update about Bullring Donald Day. Like I said, I don't know whether I should tie him up or... He does have the crazy eyes. He does. Yes. Rachel said, the story coming out of this is crazy. He's definitely part of all of this. I agree. I think he was their spiritual leader. And I think his advice, being a confidant to these people, it inspired the attack on the police. And I think you can't look at it any other way. You have to look at it that they were all in it together. And by trying to exclude that evidence from trial, it's like I said, it's basically like trying to pick your evidence. That's it. It's like trying to pick your Yeah, you just say, "Oh, I don't like that evidence." It's like if you went to trial and you were a murderer, and they're like, "We have a knife here. It has the victim's blood and evidence on the handle of DNA of the killer, who we've matched to the person here, the defendant." And the defendant's like, "No, I don't really want that at my trial. It might prejudice the jury. You know, it might make them think I'm guilty. It might make them think this is all about something else. What, murder? Yeah, that." It is really astonishing that that's even an argument they could make. But I'll bring you more on that as this gets fought out. He's supposed to go to trial in about a month in Arizona. So I will let you know more when I know more. But right now I don't. Marilena says, "I'm out tonight, but saying hello to everyone." Hello. Hi. Gayla says, "I didn't get a notification." Should have. I saw one come up on my phone. I saw one. I don't know why you didn't get one. Maybe they just ran out of notifications. They're like, "Well, we can only give out like 5, so we're not going to give one to Gayla. I'm sorry, we're not going to do that." I do believe he has the crazy eyes. Yeah, it is a pretty brutal story. I don't think I've ever seen anything just so hectic at the time. I mean, I can't imagine what those police were thinking. They're going to this property to do a wellness check. They weren't there to arrest anyone. They weren't there to hurt anyone. They went there to check if to see if someone was okay. They weren't going to hurt anyone. They weren't going to take anyone away. They literally just wanted to make sure that someone who hadn't been seen in a while was doing okay, because they were missing from their work. They had gone over the border into Queensland. People hadn't seen them. They didn't know why they weren't at their house. And they just wanted to make sure that, hey, this person's alive and doing okay. And these people fired on them. Let me see if I can find you that footage. Let me take you to the Australian. No, let me take you to the ABC News. That might do it. Yeah. Let me take you to ABC News. Let me show you some footage of that day from the Pole Air.
They were the critical eyes in the sky for specialist police officers on the ground. In December 2022, 2 police helicopters circled a Wieambilla property, directing trained operatives who were closing in on 3 armed and dangerous offenders. Thermal imaging shows fires which were deliberately lit, then Nathaniel and Gareth Train firing bullet after bullet as an armoured vehicle rolled in. The 2 brothers and Gareth's wife Stacey, later determined to hold extremist religious views, were taken out after a lengthy gunfight. Several hours earlier, they'd murdered 2 police constables and an innocent bystander. They also shot and seriously wounded another officer.
They shot.
Matthew Arnold and Rachel McCrow had been sent to the remote block to carry out a missing persons check and to serve an arrest warrant. But the pair only made it 120 metres up the dirt driveway before they were killed. Less than an hour later, Alan Dare and his friend Victor Lewis came to their neighbouring block to investigate an explosion.
Yeah, there's things still exploding out there, Vic, so I wouldn't get too close.
But only one of them left alive. Mr. Lewis relived the moment his friend was killed, telling the coroner's court he didn't see the shooter and only realised his friend was hit when he dropped to the ground. During his testimony, he criticised the emergency response, telling the court locals should have been told there was an active shooter in the area. If we were given a warning that something was going on, we would not have been in the position we were in. They should have told us to stay in our home, if nothing else. Kerry Dare also took the witness stand. She told the court she was on the phone to 000 when she heard the gunshot that killed her husband. It was deemed too risky for the 58-year-old's body to be removed from the scene when the slain officers were, instead leaving him to the following day. Mrs. Dare told the court she waited several hours before getting any information from police about her husband's death. She described her treatment that night by officers as disgusting and immoral. The inquest into all 6 deaths continues. Talissa Saganto, ABC News, Brisbane.
Yeah, I think there might also be some body cam footage of them approaching the property. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Jumping the front gate. Their task is to find missing person Nathaniel Train, who's wanted for weapons offences. Constable Keely Bruff is only 8 weeks on the job and introduces herself to a fellow officer from a neighbouring station.
Keely, Rachel, and Matt. She's our newest first year.
Less than 2 minutes after entering the property, a gunshot is fired. And in an instant, a routine call-out turns into a deadly assault. When we next see Constable Kirk, he's crouched behind a tree. His radio isn't working, but he uses his mobile to call his supervisor in Chinchilla, half an hour away.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, what super have we got?
He shot Rachel, I believe. I think she's dead. She shot him, I think. No, he's still walking. He's trying to walk around me.
Nearby lies the body of Constable Matthew Arnold, killed by the first gunshot. Soon after, the wounded Constable Rachel McCrow was executed at close range. Keely Bruff has disappeared from sight. A few moments pass, then the killer advances to where Constable Kirk is hiding.
Mate, do they know where you are?
Yes, they do.
Mate, can you, obviously scramble from tree to tree to try and retreat out of there?
I'll try.
To try and do that?
I can try. Want me to do that?
He makes a run for it.
They're coming, they're shooting.
The other 2 officers.
He makes it to the police vehicle about 100 metres away, under heavy fire. The young officer is shot in the hip, but manages to flee the property.
You good? Lost the shoe. I've got blood on my face. I don't know where I've been shot.
When these incidents happen, it's not like on TV. I mean, it's a mad sense of overwhelming emotions of surprise, shock, fear. He was firing back with his Glock. Unfortunately, the offenders had rifles. It was an unfair firefight. That's what it was.
And as he hopped into that vehicle too, if you watch the longer version of that, they actually fire into the windshield and he actually ducks to take cover. And they almost blow his windshield apart with a high-powered rifle. One of the most confronting footages I think I've ever watched out of Australia. It's, you just don't see stuff like that here, where cops are getting fired on like that. And that guy was so close to being killed himself. One wrong move, if he had delayed by a second getting over that gate. If say he tried to jump that gate and he could not get over it, they would have killed him. He would have been shot in the head like a second later. The fact he made it to the car and opened the door, that actually avoided some shots that they were firing at him, and because he was behind or next to the door, and then he got in the vehicle and that protected him enough to get him. So he just slams on the reverse and just starts driving backwards, and he gets down to I think about 1 kilometer down the road. And he almost collapses in the vehicle because he's been shot in the hip and he's losing blood and he's trying to call everything in. He's like, there's 2 dead. We need backup. Like, you need guys here now. There's someone still in there. There's an officer that needs help because there was still another female officer in there that needed to get out. They did eventually get her. And then there was the 2 dead officers and the dead neighbor, Alan Dare, that were inside too. Then they started the siege, and eventually they sent a bear cat in there. But the way they had actually set up that property, when you came down that driveway, it sort of ducks out and then around again, and they were hiding. The first time they were hiding before the bend, and that's why they fired on the officers. So when they were coming down, they were hiding just before the bend. So the officers were looking sort of like in this direction, as the path goes, and they were firing from the opposite direction. So they never really saw it coming. But then the second time when they sent the Bearcat in there, they had retreated further back onto the house, and they had like all these stands up and metal and plates to hide behind, and they just sent the Bearcat in there, and eventually they 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 got him because they weren't going to fire their way out of a Bearcat. A Bearcat's just going to sit there, and you can fire as many .223 rounds as you want, and it ain't going to do shit because it's an armored vehicle. Eventually, you're going to run out of bullets, and then when they did, they just blew them away out of the portholes in the Bearcat. They just shot and killed them. So they eventually, the threat was annihilated, or whatever you want to call it. But not before two officers died and a neighbor. Very very sad. Hey James, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Oh yeah, must have been. You can hear him talking to his superior, and it's almost like he needed that talking to from someone else to tell him to go. Because I don't think he knew what to do. It was like, do I stay and fight? Do I try and help the other officer who's lost in the property? And the you can hear the sergeant on the phone. He's like, no. He's like, get the F out of there. He's like, if you can run, you run. He's like, you go. He's like, we'll sort it out. You get out of here. And I think as soon as that guy said that, like, you go, he was sort of like, oh, I go? Yes, okay, I go. And he took off. I think if he'd waited any longer, like seconds, they would have been on top of him, and they would have been a third victim. So, yeah, it's just crazy footage. I think there's a little bit more about the siege if we go a little further down. Okay.
We're hearing what we're thinking is gunshots, but now we've got like an electrical burning. We're on acreage out in Wieambilla.
Do you think it might be 251?
251, yeah, we need a fire, please, now.
I have police at
Please,
251.
my husband's going to pick the neighbour up and they're going to investigate closer.
I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just stay at home. I know this might sound bad, but I'm trying to get more information as to, what's going on.
The operator again tells Kerry that her husband should stay put, but by then he and his friend Victor Lewis have already left, Alan filming on his phone. Operator Emma Donald will later tell the coroner she saw a notification on her computer that police were in trouble at the property, but did not click on it.
At that time, I didn't know if it was related or not. We'd been told in our training that if we look into a job that isn't related, we'd most likely get in trouble for it, because it's technically snooping.
But Alan doesn't know any of this, and he's already at the property.
Ooh, the hell is in that?
Then another gunshot, and Alan is dead.
When I rolled him over, I saw blood on his back, and having been a person who'd been around weapons all my life, I realised he'd been shot. And not knowing what was going on, it was time to leave there, get away from there.
Just after 6:30 p.m, a team of police helped Constable Bruff run to safety. She'd been hiding for 2 hours. Around 8 p.m, a special emergency response team arrives. They try and fail to negotiate with the 3 shooters. One of them fires at the police helicopter. Ultimately, by 10:40 p.m, all 3 have been fatally shot by police.
All right, I'm going to pause the audio there, but I like when you can see on this overhead shot, you can see this Pol Air helicopter, and I don't know if you can see the Bearcat as of yet, but you can see them hiding down here. This is the shooters that are glowing in the center of the screen. That's them who were firing on police, and they tried to fire on the helicopter. And then this is in the bottom left. That's that Bearcat coming through. in that just as they enter the property. There it is. In the bottom left square there. That's that big giant bear cat. This was the ammunition cache and weapon cache that they found on the property. This is all the weapons that they located, including what looks like some sort of spear or javelin. Some sort of giant spear or javelin. I don't know what they plan to do with that. A rifle scope. I don't know what half of this other stuff is. Guns, a billion knives, tomahawk, axes, a machete, another type of long knife, a baseball bat, other more knives up here. This looks like just the handheld walkie-talkies, communication devices, binoculars, archery, bow and arrow. They were completely kitted out. They had so many weapons. Those police were outgunned. They were just outgunned when they first got to that property. You can imagine rocking up as a police officer, and all you've got is your service pistol. And these guys have high-powered rifles and all of this. And you're outnumbered almost. They got 3, you have 4, but they have the element of surprise, and they fire on you first. I mean, it was a trap. They got ambushed, completely ambushed. And that female officer who ran into the bushland, they set a fire after her to try and smoke her out, and she was hiding for 2 hours in the bush. I can't imagine what that must be like, to be hiding, not knowing if any second you're going to be killed. Like they could find you and just shoot you dead. You already seen your colleagues be killed. It could be you next. And you don't know when help is coming. You have no idea. You can't hear over the radio. You have to turn it off so they can't hear you. I mean, she's very lucky to be alive. Very lucky. Same with the fella who jumped the gate. Both of them are just amazing that they're here today. Joe Neal said it was like an episode of Water Rats. Well, I think this might be way more exciting than Water Rats, but sure. Hey LMS, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, I know this case is not as popular as, say, Erin Patterson, but it's important. I like that it's got across USA and Australia. So there's 2 different segments here too. We get a lot of Australians, we get a lot of US people. So I like that it combines the 2 countries. Hey, Kathy Lynch, how are you? Good to see you guys. How long do we have? We've got about half an hour before we have to get out of here so you guys can go join Trish. Yeah, they executed the first one at close range. Yep. Rachel. They absolutely got her very, very quickly. It was very sad. You don't want to ever see that. And by the way, I don't know if you guys heard, but one of those tornadoes that went through Arkansas had 2 EF4 tornadoes that went through on Saturday. 2. And one of them was only 11 miles per hour wind speed from being an EF5, the first EF5 since 2013. That would have been historical. But even that, an EF4, so close to being an EF5, you can imagine the type of damage that went through there. I just saw some of the data coming out of it. It's insane. That city in Arkansas. I hope they're able to rebuild. I can't remember which one it is. It's, hold on, EF4. Diaz. So it's the one that went through Diaz. It was an EF4. And they were both nighttime EF4 tornadoes. Apparently this is it. This is a video of it right here. This is one of some of the only video I've seen. And it's this big trunk tornado. Oh, I can't play it. They're racist against Australians. But it is a place called Tuckerman, Arkansas, and they saw a massive nocturnal tornado with 190-mile-per-hour winds. They're saying if it was over 201 mile per hour, it would have been an EF5. They say the National Weather Service teams from Little Rock, Arkansas said the tornado seen in the video above at 11:23 p.m. Eastern Time near Diaz has a preliminary rating of EF4 based on the enhanced Fujita scale, and it was the second EF4 tornado in Arkansas within a few hours, becoming the first multiple EF4 tornado event in the state in nearly 30 years, 3 decades. There's a photo of that tornado as it came through just before midnight. That is, it looks stout. If you've ever watched tornadoes, just looks stout, very powerful. You see this slanted funnel here that's just from the how fast the cloud base is moving. So you get like a slanted look to the tornado because it sort of suctions onto the ground, so you get a pulling effect on it. But it just looks very, very powerful. And you get this big debris curtain here around the tornado bottom here. This shows you it's just spraying debris out. You only get this with like very strong tornadoes. Kathy said, did you see the one that came in Loudoun County? I did. There was a tornado. I think it was an EF1 or an EF something. I did see that there was one in Tennessee. I don't think it was very big. Hold on. I'll have to double check. Yeah, there was. I don't know what it is though. I don't think it has a rating as of yet. I'm not sure. But yeah, there was one near I-40. They said just after 8 p.m., the National Weather Service reported that a tornado warning was in place after multiple reports were made of a possible tornado approaching I-40 and traveling parallel to the I-75. The warning was issued for multiple counties, including Loudoun, Roane, Knox, and Anderson County. As the storm continued to move through, the system was watched. I don't see a rating for this one. Tornado warning. Yes, I don't see one as of yet. Guys, give me a second. I have to check something. Hold on. All right, there we go. Kathy said that's close to where I grew up. I wish they had a rating for it. It just says radar confirmed. Radar confirmed. Yeah, no rating for it though. Hold on. Here. There is a damage survey viewer. I've showed it on this channel before, where you can go in and have a look at the tornado tracks and the damage. So we could probably go have a look. All right, let's see if they've got anything in Tennessee. This looks like the only one on there right now. Okay, what does it say? EF1. So they haven't done a lot. There's only a few cones here. So there's only, see these little green triangles. There's only a few. So we might have to wait. But it says EF1 right now. So you can see the track here. So if we go out. Here, let me go out a little bit more. And you can sort of see some of the bigger ones that happened down here. We go to this is Birmingham, Alabama. I don't think it was that wide. This would be like the widest tornado ever. It'd be like 20 miles wide. I don't think that's correct. But you can see others ones down here near Alabama. Yeah, look, here you go. So you can actually see, they actually show you the different widths of the tornado as it goes through and changes in shape. So it got thinner here, looked like it tried to rope out at one point or dissipate. Then it re-intensified later on. And you can see it got wider again as it went through. And then it eventually roped out up here. But yeah, you can see at one point it definitely tried to rope out, and it actually looks very wide as it came across the river here. Looks like its widest point of this particular tornado. EF3. So this was an EF3. Where is this? Oh, this is Plantersville. This is the Plantersville tornado from the weekend. Look how long that track is too. It went from near Vine Hill. It went all the way from like Vine Hill, went all the way up through here, and finished just before the town of Clanton or Clanton. It did. It got into town. It went through this housing right here. It got through this part of the block and then lifted. Wow, that is very lucky for the town of Clanton. That is very lucky for them that they did not cop this very strong EF3 tornado going through their town. Where's the one in Arkansas? Let me see. Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay, so it's probably up here. I can't see it. There's no tags on it yet. It's got a line, but there's no cones on it. As you can see, it's just a line, and there's no width. There's no width on it yet. So this is just a very preliminary track. But these are what we call like long track supercell tornadoes. When they're short, they're only on the ground for like a mile, 2 miles, something like that, even quarter of a mile. When you get these that travel through counties and keep going, these are these real damaging, real long-lived tornadoes. Same with this one. Looked like it had one that moved parallel with it. See, you had one that basically moved parallel, probably from a different cell. And then there's one up here, a little tiny one. What was this one? EF3 as well. EF3, another EF3. Actually crossed the border. And kept going. So when it was on this side of the border, it was an EF1. And when it crossed the border and went near Bakersfield, it turned into an EF3. So it's a very interesting tool that you can use if you want to go look at the storm tracks and see it. So sometimes they even have photos. Let me see if there's some on this one. Again, you can see the storm track here. Let's go down here. Give me a photo. So there you go. So they take these photos and these are the damage points. So they show you like, oh, this is what we think is EF2 damage. Being able to snap this tree in half from the roots like that. They think this is equivalent to EF2. And then you'll see things like buildings and snapped things and stuff like that. And they'll be like, oh, this piece of metal that bent, this takes so much force, and this is an EF3. So that's how they decide what these tornadoes are. They go out there and they plot the entire tornado track, take all these photos of the damage, and then make an assessment on what they think it is combined with the radar data. So that's how they you get your EF scale rating. None of your friends, yeah, it looks like it was an EF1, so probably not a ton of damage. But yeah, I hope you find that pretty interesting. I know a lot of people don't know about that you can do this. Let me find a more interesting photo. Yeah, what about this one? Another EF2. There you go. They're saying that this damage here was consistent with an EF2. if we scroll out, let me see if I can take you to one that's got bigger damage. Looks like here another one. A lot of EF2 damage, a lot of EF2. This one on a different tornado nearby. They're saying all these cinder blocks and this fence or something, this bent iron. Oh, this used to be a trailer home. This used to be a trailer home. You can see the steps and landing there on the left side. So this used to be someone's mobile home, and it's gone. Looks like it probably got rolled and pushed this way to the right and then scattered across that area. So this was someone's home, unfortunately. Very, very sad. Yeah, so that's how they do it. So if you've never learnt about that before, this is what they do. They go out and take photos, and then they document it, and then they go through the entire track, and they'll say, well, this is how wide it was in different parts, and this is what was damaged and what that is equivalent to, and it's a lot of work. Like they do a lot of work. I'd say Arkansas, either Arkansas or Mississippi. Mississippi or Arkansas were the two places that had the real damaging long track tornadoes. Illinois had a couple too that were pretty bad, but yeah, Mississippi, Missouri had a couple. Yeah, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois. Yeah, but Arkansas had the two EF4s. So I know a town in Arkansas is like wiped out. Like they have to rebuild everything. There's a lot of work that has to be done over there. Let's go. Let's see if we've got anything else. Let's go to Illinois. Do they have any for Illinois right now? They got a couple. Illinois. Let's go to St. Louis, Missouri. They got this one that went through Florissant. This one looks like I don't know, an EF1, EF0. Looks like an EF1. Yep, EF1. So they're saying this roof that got peeled back was consistent with EF1 damage. And then if we head to Illinois, let's see what they got. Doesn't look like Illinois unless they haven't mapped it yet. They had this one here. What is it? It looks like a very low level one as well. Long track, but not super damaging. EF1. Yeah, it looks to be an EF1 so far. Preliminary. What's that? Oh, EF2. Okay. This was a barn house. What does it say it is? Small barn or farm outbuilding. So this was an outbuilding that got blown away in that EF2 tornado in Illinois. So there you go. Alabama. I still think it was Arkansas. I still think Arkansas or Mississippi. Like I'll show you. Let's zone out. Who had the most? Let's have a look. See, Arkansas has a pretty good grouping. Missouri had quite a lot. And you see down here in Birmingham, Alabama had a few. The Mississippi ones are not up yet. So apparently, because of the damage in Mississippi, they haven't been able to update any out of this particular area as of yet. They're still waiting. As you can see, there's no lines here. From what I understand, they're still waiting because there's a lot of infrastructure that's down. There's a lot of flooding. There's a lot of sites that they can't get into. So the Mississippi ones are going to take a little bit longer to come up on the system. There you go. Tuscaloosa. There's a couple. Look at how many were around Tuscaloosa. Look at that. You got this big one here. These two that look like they're probably maybe from the same storm. So this one maybe formed, lifted, and then put down a secondary tornado here. Same with this one. Put down a tornado, lifted, put down another one, slightly lifted, put down another one, and then lifted again and put down another tornado. So this would be like a cyclet supercell, which cycles, puts down a tornado, cycles again, and puts down another tornado. Pretty, they are pretty, not super common, but they do happen. Not a lot of data yet. This looks like a very rough track. So it looks like they haven't verified any of this yet. This one went over all this waterway area near North Riviera and North River Shores. So all this waterway. So this one traveled over all this water. So at one point it was probably over this lake. It was probably like a water spout at one point. Pretty cool. Did we get anything in Florida? Not today. Looks like they had a little one in Georgia. Is this Georgia? I think so. Looks like they had a little one. An EF0. An EF0. They had a small one. Did they end up having anything in New York? I heard New York had a couple of warnings. Doesn't look like it as of yet. So there you go. You can see all the different tracks through the storms. Quite a lot of damage up here. And a lot of very advanced. So these are what they'll look like when they're better done. You see all the little triangles. These are all the damage points that they've been able to get to. This is an EF3. Oh, okay. This was a property that got destroyed, partially destroyed. And you see the truck, it's covered in debris. Even this truck here, covered in like wood pulp, maybe, or something like that. So they thought this was EF3 damage. Yep, EF3. So this one was quite a strong one. This is at Cedar Valley. So Cedar Valley. But yeah, quite a lot of long track tornadoes. So there you go. Jonna said New Jersey was very windy yesterday. Okay. They had the remnants of this particular system go through. So it's now moved off the coast of America and it's gone. So, hey Penguin, how are you, my friend? We're just about to wrap up, so I can let you guys go over to Trisha's channel and hang out. I'm just going to check up here. By the way, I want to thank Sean for his donation for tonight. I appreciate it. That helps out a lot. We're really trying to save every dollar we can right now for the Aaron Patterson trial. It's turning into a money pit right now. Gaylor says, see, other person didn't get one. Oh, maybe they're being selective with who gets a notification. All right, I will start wrapping up the show, and I will let you head over to hang out with Trish in about 10 minutes or so. I don't know what she's doing tonight. Let me see. Let me see what she's doing. What is she doing? She's doing Gene Hackman update and Sudishka Kananki. So she's got more. Yeah, there was a new video that came out today of Sudishka vomiting before she went to the beach. So she was in like a resort or bar area, and she had gone and thrown up. So that's the new video that came out of her puking outside on the grass. So you can watch that with Trish after this. You can watch her puking on the thing. Joe Neal says, do Oz cops have long? Not. I don't think so. Not like in America where they pop the boot and they've got like a rifle in the back. No, not normally. No, they normally just have their service weapon. The guys that do have that are normally like response group or Raptor squad, those type of guys, specialist operations, but not the plainclothes or the the guys that do the traffic or whatever. They don't normally have that. Hey, I love you all. We might be back later. We'll see. I might be back on at midnight. So, if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Let me know, and I'll make a decision based on what people think. All right. Hey, I love you all. Have a great night. Head over to websleuths.com. She's going to be on in about 10 minutes' time. And I hope you enjoyed an early show for once. I get so many people saying, when can we have an early show again? So I hope those people that have missed joining in the show early enjoy it. So I'll be back possibly later. Peace out. Love you all. Bye-bye. Bye.